Comparing recreational side-by-sides with more farming, working type side-by-sides. Going to look at a couple of examples here and kind of explain the difference between the two and kind of who they're a good fit for if you're in the market for one. Got a Polaris 900 XP. This is going to be the example of the more recreational type side-by-side. Still able to do other things with it, but this is an example, and we're going to go over some of the features that it has. Next, we got a Kawasaki Mule 3010. This would be the example of the fuel or the farming type side-by-side, working type side-by-side. We're going to look at some of its features. First off, it looks more farm type. If you look at it here, it's more square, a little more tractor looking, I guess you should say. You can tell smaller wheels. You can just tell by looking at it, it's more of a farm type than it is recreational type, just by the first look. So you can see the seat here, it's got a nice bench seat. It's got real thick cushion on it, thick back cushion. It's pretty easy to slide in and out of. It fits two good people good, and one little one in the middle. It's pretty comfy seat. Looking at the dash here, you can see it's got the control there on your right for your high and your low and your reverse. Then it's got your four-wheel drive over there to the far right, and it's got differential lock on your left. It's got a couple power points, cup holder, glove box. So it's a pretty good working setup if you want to plug up phone or plug up a spotlight or any other little thing, and you just got some storage spaces in it. So pretty good setup for working around the house or around the farm. The motor, as you can see, it's just it's a V-twin motor, but I don't know the horsepower on it exactly, but it's a belt driven automatic. It's geared right to where it's got good power. It'll pull real good, but it's not fast by no means. You don't have to worry about it coming out from under you or spinning or doing a whole lot of that. It's just more like the John Deere Gator types, a little bit slower wind, but it's a good setup for this working type machine. Looking at the front, you can see we've got a two-piece windshield. It's kind of nice if you're riding. You can take that bottom off and it makes for good wind, but then it also keeps stuff from hitting you right in the face. So you can also close that off too, and it blocks the air, which will make a huge difference when it starts cooling off. It's got a good brush guard on it. Headlights, I think a lot of these you can buy winches and stuff that'll mount right on the front. That's pretty capable brush guard on the front. You can do different stuff with. There's not a whole lot of, the hood's plastic, but a lot of metal. It's pretty tough front end. Got a solid axle on the back, which is great for hooking trailers to, or you wrap a tie strap around it, or pulling with it. It's just a pretty rugged setup. It don't give you much ground clearance, and obviously it does not allow the suspension travel for trail riding and stuff like that, but it is definitely preferred for pulling and working type. It's kind of the same as the four-wheelers were. The Hondas had the solid axles, and a lot of people like that because when you hooked a trailer to it or had a lot of weight on it, it was not pulling down on your suspension. It was mainly pulling on that axle. Versus the independent suspension machines, when you hook trailers and stuff to them, they squat the whole machine and they rob from your suspension. So this is a good solid build axle that's works great for pulling stuff. One thing I forgot to mention is it's got a parking brake that you can see there on the left, and the dump bed that's real heavy built. As you can see, there is a latch for it, and then a handle on either side, so the passenger and the driver can get out and open it on either side or dump it. It's pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy dump bed, but don't you're not going to mess it up by putting stuff in it. It's heavy built. good tailgate. But you can just tell it's a good looking tractor like machine. It's got the headache rack on the back again that I think I've already talked about, but it's great for hooking straps and just hanging come-alongs or whatever. You can kind of do what you want to with that. A lot of people hang your caution sign or whatever in the back if you're going to be getting it out on the road, or farm use tags or whatever. There's just it's a good place for that, and that's good visibility right there. But just a good looking, it's just a tractor looking machine. I mean, it looks like it's ready for work. So looking at the Polaris 900 XP here, you can tell by just looking at it, it's a lot more sporty setup. It's got a lot more room between the wheels and the fenders, a lot more suspension travel. Just sits higher up off the ground. The head rests on the seats. You can just kind of see that it's just a little more built for sport, but still also usable on the farm. But so looking here, you can kind of see the seats got the it's kind of padded out for 2 people, but you can definitely ride 3 wide. Got a little more sporty looking seat belts. Got your control about in the same spot as on the other, and you've got a high and a low and a reverse and a park. I will say they're a little funny on this machine as far as pulling it up and down. It's a little backwards in what you think, but once you get used to it, it's pretty good. But it's got a couple power units on it. It works pretty good for charging stuff, and a little pocket, to put everything in. So it's got a pretty good setup for that. Now, it's got a independent rear suspension, so it's got a lot of suspension travel. This is more set up for woods and rougher all-terrain stuff. Again, like I mentioned, looking at the mule, it's not as set up to pull stuff with. I mean, it is. You can get hitches for them and everything, winches, and not that you can't, but again, it robs from your suspension and your ride of the machine, the more weight that you have back there pulling down on it, or resting on the suspension. But great for woods and doing some trail riding and stuff. It's a lot better ride. Looking into the motor, this type of style here is a lot quicker, fast winding motor, a lot shorter stroke. It's automatic, also belt driven. This one here's got like 68 horsepower. So, and now they're making them a lot bigger than that. But I know with this one in particular on pavement, if you just stomp it real hard, it'll spin all over the place. But it's stout. So it's a lot faster motor than something that you would get in a farming type side by side. Okay, looking at the 3 main things that are different about recreational and farm type side by sides. Starting with the ride. So on this Kawasaki, it's not a real good ride. I mean, it's got a thicker cushion seat that is very comfortable, but it kind of is to make up for the tractor style of riding that it is. It's a little more bouncy, but it's just sprung heavy. It's made heavy for heavy loads and just heavy pulling. It's not made for riding for hours on end through the woods. It's set up for farm use and working use. The ride on the Polaris is a lot more pleasant. The seat is not near as comfortable, and it's not as easy to get in and out of, but it's the suspension itself. So just sitting on it, maybe it does not feel quite as good as a cushion seat on the working type, but when you're going fast and running over rough stuff, the ride's a whole lot smoother, if that makes any sense. It's set up for that type of style, sporty style riding. It's not set up for just cruising around checking fence necessarily. But still, it's still got a good seat on it, good comfortable seat. Most of it's riding comfort is through the suspension. Second is toughness in these two types of machines. These in particular, and I mean, the Kawasaki Mule kind of has the market on the farming type side-by-sides. I mean, you've got John Deere that's got some too, and they're all very tough built machines. They're something that you're going to buy and you're going to keep for a long time because they're built heavy. They're just well built. They're tried and true. They've been around a while. There's a lot of metal, not a lot of plastic. They're just more tractor built. And for the most part, for what you're using them for, depending on how rough you are working, you know, they're not taking quite the trail abuse as something that somebody was going to be doing on, you know, like a sports ride or just a trail riding, you know. So they're extremely tough, I should say, in the way that they're built. On the recreational type, it's you know, they're well built. There is a lot more plastic on them, a lot more stuff to break off. You know, not all of it's expensive or anything, but there's just not a lot of metal on them. They come pretty basic, so you got to buy a lot of brush guards and things to protect the body on it. But they are, you know, they've been around for a little while now, not quite as long as the farming type side-by-sides, but they have quickly improved every year on the models that they're making to make them more durable and more tough. And for the most part, most of them are easy to work on, and parts are pretty easy to find. And finally, looking at the capability of both of these, the Polaris is obviously, if you're doing a little bit of everything, the Polaris would be a better fit. One thing I forgot to mention is this model offers an electric power steering, which is awesome for being in the woods. It don't sound like it would be that necessary, but trust me, it's a great feature to have. Kawasaki may offer that, I'm not sure, but on these particular ones, no, they do not. And anyway, so the Polaris is a little more capable. It's definitely better for if you're going to run a lot of highway. It's set up to it's a lot faster. You're going to run with traffic versus on the Kawasaki you're going to do a little more like a tractor, and back roads you'll be fine. I mean, people will go around you, but it's definitely not set up to tag and run like these newer sportier ones are. But if you're buying just to work on the farm, you know, you're going to do a lot of spraying and hauling and fencing and stuff, you know, and you want something that's going to last you a long time, definitely go the tractor route. You're not going to do any kind of recreational riding. Don't spend the money that you have to buy the sportier type machines. But if you're wanting to do a little bit of everything, the Polaris would be the fit for you. But again, this ain't specifically supposed to have been on these two models, but just the difference in the farming and the recreational, and I hope this helps. There's definitely multiple brands in both. I hope this video is helpful, so if it is, be sure and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos on other machines as well.